Good morning. You listen to FloorDaily.net, and I'm Kemp Harr. This morning, my guest is Evan Hackel, who today is the CEO of Tortal Training. Evan, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, Kemp. How about you?
I'm great. It's good to talk to you. I want to talk to you about what's going on in the commercial sector, specifically on the remodel side of the business and what the outlook is. But before we get to that, let's run through your resume. You got an MBA from Boston College, and you spent 20 years at CCA Global. And I think it's kind of interesting, you spent 3 consecutive 4-year stints, first with IDG, and then with Flooring America, Flooring Canada, and then you took the role as president of Carpet One. So that was 12 years of your life.
Great years, by the way.
And that's kind of where a lot of people know you. Did I cover most of it, or did I leave some gaps in there?
Basically, at CCA, when I was there, I was responsible as the 5th employee and responsible for strategic planning. And I was one of the people that wrote the business plan, helped launch Stone Mountain, helped launch ProSource Wholesale Floor Covering.
Yeah.
In the transition many years ago, when the management team left Starnet, I took an interim role in the management of Starnet. It was a great career. I've kept track of what's going on in the floor covering business, for sure.
Yeah, and tell us who Tortal Training is.
When I left CCA, I was focusing on consulting and primarily in franchising.
Yeah.
Tortal Training is the largest training company in franchising, and that's actually what led me to this conversation, because I know so much about what's going on in franchising, which ultimately is going to have a major impact on commercial floor covering.
Yeah, well, let's go straight to that. You sent me an email and you gave me some perspective, and I thought, well, let's talk about that, because I think the audience would like to know that. What you were telling me is that there are going to be some changes in ownership. There's going to be some bankruptcies, some changing of who owns what, and as a result of that, whether it be in the restaurant business or any other kind of franchise, those properties are not going to just lay there. There's going to be investments made as new owners come in, right?
Yeah, essentially, if you look at the numbers in franchising, they're staggering. Over 25% of all franchise restaurants have never reopened. And by the way, that compares to about 60% of the non-franchise restaurants have never reopened. So there's massive amounts of franchise restaurants that will never reopen, but continue on. Fitness makes the restaurant industry look like it's doing really well.
Yeah.
Fitness has been brutalized because of the sweating and the nature, of passing of COVID.
Right.
People are doing really well in franchising are people in home services. They're doing well, but what's going to happen is once things get a little better, a little clearer, and it's really starting to happen now, what you're going to start to see is, for the first time in franchising in forever, there's actually a significant amount of quality real estate. What's going to happen is the stronger franchise systems and the stronger franchisees are going to go in and buy locations of other franchise businesses that have closed and remodel them. You're going to see a huge amount of remodeling of commercial space. So the development of new commercial space, I think, is going to be dramatically down for a very long time. But there's going to be large projects of businesses that have closed. And, I'm talking franchises, but, if you look, Bed Bath & Beyond has announced they're closing 200 locations. So many companies have gone bankrupt. Look, landlords don't like vacancies.
Right.
They're going to make deals. And then I'll go further and add this little twist of floor covering. Huge opportunity if you're a floor covering store to move. One of the things I noticed when I was in floor covering is people would move into locations that were in the best location in town.
Right.
And then over time, town shifted. But they were still in their lease, they were still in their location, maybe they owned their location. But they weren't in the best location anymore because the population shifted. The deals on real estate, the rents that you're going to get, the concessions you're going to get, are incredible. Every retailer listening to me, and for that matter, every contractor, there are opportunities to move that weren't there before. That opportunity and that mindset that you might have to think, okay, well, maybe I can get a lower rent, maybe I can get a better location, maybe I can move from a B retail to an A retail, is the same thing that's happening every other place in the economy. You're going to see a lot of remodeling, and some of this could be Main Street commercial, but I think a lot of this could be projects too big for Main Street commercial, especially the bigger types of spots. creating relationships with franchising companies and being their vendor of choice, which I have no doubt that Fuse and StarNet work on. I think there's going to be, for the next 5 or 6 or 7 years, a massive boom in commercial remodeling. And that was really the point that I wanted to make. That right now there's a boom in completing projects that were like open, but from there it will shift to remodeling.
All right, so new construction is not going to be good, but remodel is going to be good. You also wanted to help our listeners with your outlook on the economy. Tell us about that.
We pumped $3 trillion into this economy not too long ago.
Yeah. Lots
of people got PPP loans. In addition to that, the Fed is buying up bonds like crazy. Interest rates are as low as they've ever been. And this is fantastic news right now. But what's going to happen is that money's going to wear off. It started with unemployment, the $600 bonus. Well, that's a lot of money for a lot of people. In fact, a lot of people are making more. And those people spend money, particularly people, that are tight on income. They spend virtually everything they get, but they're no longer getting that bonus. So what I think you're going to start to see is this economy, which is doing pretty well in the recovery stage, unless they pass another stimulus bill, which it looks like they're not going to do, I think you're going to start seeing the economy go down pretty significantly. So right now, I think people are doing really well in floor covering retail because the big drivers of floor covering retail is new home transfer.
Right.
People buy new homes, they tend to change flooring. And there's been a huge demand, population, and people thinking of moving, okay, I'm going to get out of the city, I'm going to move back into the suburbs. This is great for selling floor covering. But I think what you're going to start to see is the economy is going to start to contract. Right now, home values are going up. Inevitably, when there's a recession, you're going to start to see home values go down. Then fewer people are going to want to sell their homes. There's going to be less movement, and there are going to be less people with disposable dollars. I think we need to be careful when you're looking at your business. Things might be very good now, and it's not great everywhere, but where it is good. But have a cautious eye and pay attention to what's happening, because I think there could be a pretty significant pullback on the economy unless, again, they pass some kind of additional stimulus bill, which I hope they do. But there's going to be an argument that at some point that's going to come to an end, and it's going to take time to recover from this. And remember, unlike any other recovery where you recover to where you were, the whole economy has changed forever. More people are going to be working from home, which enables people to move and live in different places. Because if you're working from home, you don't have to live in the city. You can live wherever you want. You can live in Vermont. You can live in Maine. It's much cheaper to live in Vermont and Maine than it is to live in Boston, where I live. So the world is changing. So the change isn't like, okay, the economy's going to shift back to where it was. The economy's going to shift back, and someday will be stronger than it ever was, but it will not look like it is today. So you need to think about that, particularly when it comes to location.
You know what they say?
That makes sense.
The last pandemic we had, 1918, and then we had the Roaring '20s. So hopefully we'll see something similar to that.
Yeah, and I do think that there will be a roar. It could be 4 or 5 years down the road.
Yeah.
I will just share this. One of the greatest things CCA did in the 2008 recession is in 2007, CCA had a massive effort on moving up margins. If you look at margins, if you drop your price by about 10%, you've got to literally do 50% more volume to make up for that margin growth. At the same token, if you can raise your margins by about 10%, you can actually make as much money with a third less volume. So margin is really important. If I was a retailer today, I would be looking at how do I position myself and make sure I've got the right margin.
Okay, Evan. Great input for our listeners. Again, been talking to Evan Hackel, the CEO of Tortal Training, who spent 20 years at CCA, and you've been listening to Kemp Harr and FloorDaily.net.